everyone, I'm Theresa Burke and I'm on Salem's Safe Place Intervention Team. I'm here to talk to you today about how we keep our children safe via the Safe Place policy, and we keep our kids safe from physical abuse, mental injury, and sexual abuse. And please find me if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, or even suggestions for the future training. I would love to have more conversation with you. First, I would like to introduce you to the Safe Place Intervention Team. And so if you see any suspicions of maltreatment or you see any abuse, these are the people who you report it to. First, our church chair, Jordan Urshon, and then our pastor, Stephen Osborne, our worship and youth director, Christu Moeller, Christian education chair, Kelsey Baker, and lastly, me as the at-large member. Before we discuss reporting suspicions of maltreatment, I want to go over some of our definitions from our Safe Place policy. First, we have minors, and that's anyone under the age of 18. Then we have vulnerable adults, which are people who are over the age of 18 who are not their own guardians. This population is more susceptible to abuse and are less likely or unable to report it. Physical abuse, which is defined as an injury inflicted on a person by the person responsible for their care. This is other than accidental and cannot be reasonably explained. Sexual abuse is defined as interpersonal contact or interaction where the one being cared for is being used for the sexual stimulation of the caregiver. Prohibited activities include any physical contact of a sexual nature, pressure for sexual activity such as suggested or demanded sexual involvement accompanied by implied or explicit threats, and verbal or written remarks, photographs, or videos with sexual implications, whether in person, on the phone, texting, social media, or otherwise. Mental injury or psychological abuse is defined as any action or lack of action where the caretaker is endangering the mental health or emotional development of the person in their care. Mental injury does not include any training or discipline that is reasonable by the caretaker for the person in their care. Any incidences of abuse as we define, we as caretakers are mandated to report. That means anyone who undergoes this Safe Place training and is a volunteer with children or vulnerable adults are mandated to report to the required agencies that we will discuss. Our procedure is as follows. If you witness, hear about, or suspect any abuse, you are mandated to report it to the following agencies as well as a member on the Safe Place Intervention Team. The agencies, if you call the first one first, if they don't answer, you move on to the second until you have it reported. The first agency that you should contact is the St. Louis County Initial Intervention Unit. If they don't answer, the Duluth Police Customer Service, and if they don't answer, the St. Louis County Sheriff. Since we are mandated reporters, please add these numbers to your phone, and a nice trick is to just label the first one Safe Place 1 and then the next Safe Place 2 and so on, so that you know the order of priority and that you have them on hand if any occasion should arise. Once Salem's intervention team has received a report, they will meet within 24 hours. A confidential record will be kept on file. All of the necessary parties will be told and the case will be handled legally. For more information on those steps, please look to page 3 of your policy manual. Safe Place guidelines include anything hosted by Salem on Salem's property, as well as third parties using Salem's building. They also include anything that's happening off-site that is sponsored by Salem, including transportation. For supervision, 2 Safe Place approved adults are required in any of these circumstances where we're providing programming to minors or vulnerable adults. We also maintain a maximum of 1 adult to 10 children ratio, so more Safe Place approved adults may be required. Even Safe Place youth volunteers are counted as children. Safe Place youth volunteers do not count as an adult towards that ratio, and they are not allowed to change diapers or accompany children to the bathroom. Overnight events must have separate rooms for males and females, and each must have 2 safe place approved adults of their own gender. All drivers for Salem activities must be licensed, insured, and require all persons to wear seatbelts. When using church vehicles, staff must be over the age of 21 and non-staff must be over the age of 25. Security tags are part of our security at Salem. When you arrive as a parent, you check in yourself and your children. You receive a sticker with a unique code that matches all of your children's stickers so that when you pick them up, you show the sticker, the adults, the safe place approved adults in charge match those stickers to ensure that your child is returned to you and you alone. Now, this may be a frustrating and tedious aspect of this system. It might seem to get old as we know the parents, we know what children belong to them, but it is deeply important that we keep this in place. When I was young, my father needed supervised visitation with me, and it wasn't until I grew up that I found out my uncle never even knew about that. So we have no idea what's going on in these homes, and we need to keep this safeguard in place to ensure these children's safety. So part of all of this is education and fostering conversation. This is a hugely important aspect of what we do here at Salem to keep our minors and vulnerable adults safe. So the more that we keep silence and denial, the more likely and susceptible we are to seeing this type of abuse. I'm going to go over the stages or the signs of grooming and the signs of abuse to help us prevent these things from happening here. And I encourage you to share these things with others because it is important we know what they look like so that we can stop them from happening. Predators come to where children are present and vulnerable. This means churches, camps, and schools are all places where predators come to volunteer so that they can gain your trust and get close to your children. So we need to learn these signs so that we can spot it. And I don't want us to become a community where we're pointing fingers and suspicious of everything, but we need to know these signs to protect our children. These are possible warning signs of abuse. So a child may be showing one or more of them, not necessarily all of them. This also isn't a comprehensive list, so there may be other things that you notice that you may want to report. The main things are if a child is missing out on social things that they used to be invested in, skipping church, having strong reactions to things, lots of anger or disconnectedness. Also bruises that appear to be at different times of healing. That means they acquired them throughout different times, which shows that. They may also be disoriented and confused, and they may be fearful or submissive. Talk to someone on the intervention team if you're seeing these symptoms. So these are the signs of grooming, and grooming is the method in which predators use to prepare a child for abuse. Abusers start by observing children to pick out a child. They will tend to go towards children who are struggling with mental health issues and possibly using drugs. They may also introduce drugs to the child to gain power over them. To support our teens more, I encourage that you take trainings on mental health issues so that we can help and support them so they are less susceptible to this type of abuse. Abusers will also try to separate the child from other children and from other adults, so they will try to be the only one on which the child relies on. A way that we can combat this is to not have any child who's only trusting of one adult, saying phrases like, "You can come to us," instead of things like, "You can come to me." Abusers will also attempt to gain more trust by doing things like giving them gifts, sharing secrets, or giving them extra attention. So a way that we can combat that is by making sure no one's giving that extra attention, but we're all united together. There is also a large aspect of that is keeping secrets. And so we don't at all encourage any secrets to be kept from parents. And so I want to share a story. I was working in child foster care, and I had a girl who didn't buckle her seatbelt, and I didn't realize that. I started driving, and she said, "Oh no, I didn't buckle." And she buckled quickly, and she said, "Don't worry, Theresa, I won't tell Gail." And Gail was my boss at the time. And I said, "You know what? Once we see her, we're going to tell her right away, because you always tell Gail." And so even when a child falls and it doesn't seem like a big injury, it's important to share those things with the parent so that we are creating a system of trust, as well as showing the child that it's important that they tell their parents all of those things. Another thing that I just recommend is, as parents or guardians or caretakers, that we don't say things like, "Here's a treat and I won't tell mom," or even in just the parent relationship, I encourage you to maintain trust and openness with your children. Abusers will also start to introduce seemingly harmless touch, things like hugging or maybe even wrestling, just to start to get the victim used to that close contact. So a way that we can combat that here is by, instead of things like hugs, we can offer high fives. And another thing that abusers will do is they will introduce sexual content too, to desensitize children. The average age child is exposed to sexual content is between 8 and 12. This is another really important area where I think we should be looking at more training to just support ourselves and our children more in this area. In this portion of the video, we discussed Salem's Safe Place policy. That included how to spot abuse and report it. This also included the supervision, safety tags, and education. This also included meeting the intervention team, how to make reports, and how to intervene to keep our children safe. I hope this video has given you some knowledge on how to keep our church and our homes more safe. If you have any comments, suggestions, or questions, please reach out to me. I am always willing to have more conversation.